I want you to know that I am risking my and my home's well-being just for you tonight.
What have you done? Is it something weather related?
Uh, yeah, I always have to shut off my furnace when we record the podcast so there's no background noise. So, fingers crossed on the other side of this, I don't have a bunch of burst pipes.
Oh, that's the risk. Okay, yeah. 'Cause they could freeze over pretty quickly in your current situation.
Yeah, I think I'll be okay for an hour or two.
I thought you were going to tell me that you were risking like toes and fingers to frostbite.
Maybe the cold will seep in so quickly that my office will be frozen. I did prior to the show, like for the last 30 minutes, I shut the door to my office and I ran a space heater in here. So the whole office is like 10 degrees warmer than the rest of the house. Mm-hmm. So it'll last a little longer.
And the kids?
Oh, the kids are with their mom right now. Yeah.
Okay, that's handy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd have to chuck them a blanket. Get under this for the next hour, kids.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think I do with them when we record? I just tie them up and put them in the closet.
Yeah.
So
it's the easiest way. The blanket also absorbs a lot of the sound that they make.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, I should probably open the show notes. So the DTK return was amended slightly.
Yeah, that's exciting for me because when we first got the return notification and we were told that we would get $200 and we have to use it by the end of May and on an M1 Mac, right? That's really limiting, especially when it seemed like that was specifically worded so that whatever they announce at WWDC this year, you couldn't buy, right? Because they're going to...
Right, it was like an exclusionary statement. Mm-hmm. We do not want you buying the new stuff. We've got old inventory to ship, and you developers are buying it from us, like it or not.
Yeah, so since I already have an M1 MacBook Pro, I kind of felt I wasn't going to waste the $200. I wasn't just going to let it lapse, obviously. So I was prepared to buy a Mac Mini and then figure out what I was going to do with it later. But now that it's been amended and it's a full $500 to be used on any Apple product by the end of the year, I don't even know. If nothing else, if no new Apple Silicon computers come out that interest me this year, it at least gets me halfway to this year's iPhone. So it's a win-win either way.
That's true, yeah. Save it for there.
Yeah.
Or 10 5-packs of AirTags. So you could tag everything. Tag every child, every car, every partner.
I bet it's going to be a 3-pack for $100. I don't think you can get 5 for $100.
Oof. 3 for $100? No. Then it's dead in the water.
You think they're going to be that cheap?
No one would buy that.
I don't know.
It's got to be a 5-pack. $30 each.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
I mean, look at a Tile Tracker. That's about what they sell for.
Is it?
Yeah. So. Anyway, I'm very excited.
Any thoughts on the actual flip-flop by Apple to actually change this?
It's weird. It's weird for Apple to backtrack on something like that. Even when they make decisions that are usually thought by the community as at large to be bad, they stick to them for a long time. So for them to backpedal so quickly, I wonder what brought that about, because the developer community is small, and the developer community that bought developer transition kits is even smaller. So I can't imagine there was that much backlash.
No, there wasn't. There wasn't backlash, really. There were like grumblings and a few minor complaints, a few big high-profile tweeting that it was like less than satisfactory. But I think what happened is it was planned by like middle management and released, and then someone in upper management went, whoa, that's so stingy. We can do better than that.
Right. I think that has to be it, because I don't think any outside force would have made them change their mind. which is, it's kind of cool because this is very much in line with the way they've historically treated developers with last transition kits. And I think with the Intel transition kit, you weren't given a credit, you were just given an Intel iMac when you had to return a transition kit. But it's nice to see appreciation in some way for all the people. I'm not going to try to say that I'm included in this just because I own a transition kit, but all the people that spent a lot of time and effort making sure the launch of Apple Silicon went smoothly and it was well supported. I think that it's nice for those people to be appreciated and not feel like they had to pay for the privilege of helping Apple have a successful launch.
Yep. That's how it was coming across, wasn't it?
Yeah. My only complaint about it, because as far as the $200 initial return was, I think that was great. I wasn't expecting necessarily anything. Like I said, I know it's been in line with their past behavior to give the money back to developers, but I was prepared to lose $500 just to play with Apple Silicon a few months early. However, the transition kits were terrible. They basically ran the version of macOS they shipped to you with. They never got the beta software updates or anything else, so you're always stuck on the very earliest version. And they crashed a bunch, and it was spelled out in the terms they could take them back at any time they want, but it was implied that you were going to get your transition kit for a year. So the fact they wanted them back after 4 or 5 months and they didn't work very well that whole time, it makes sense just to be reimbursed for those reasons alone, because it wasn't a good experience. And everything else that came with the transition kit package, that was like the online support and the forum that you got in the developer.apple.com, was mostly just people like asking each other for help, because there was very few Apple reps actually in that support forum trying to offer help and feedback.
Okay. I had no idea it was such a poor experience. I guess the NDA kept a lot of people from really talking openly about it.
Yeah, I think that was a big part of it, because behind the scenes in the forums, there was a lot of complaining. And it seems like now that Apple's asking for the kits back and some people were complaining, that's been talked about a little bit more. And I don't think it was a universal experience, but a lot of people, and myself included, who did very little work on the DTK, experienced a lot of the crashing and no updates. So fingers crossed there's something really exciting that I can buy this year. I don't know, maybe the new iMacs are going to be so cool that I'll just have to put one in my recording booth or something. And then my laptop will be free to just be a portable computer and not sit on my desk anymore.
Wouldn't new iMacs be good?
I'm excited for the new design, if nothing else. I think they're going to look really cool. I'm also excited for the idea of this like mini Mac Pro tower that's been rumored for the last couple months.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a really cool solution for me, especially since I've already got the ultra-fine monitor. So yeah, we'll have to see. But lots of things that I am anticipating, and that $500 credit will make it easier to swallow when it comes out.
Yeah, sure will. Good position to be in, I think, to have that money to spend this year.
Yeah, exactly.
How's your unlock with Apple Watch experience been? So wearing a mask and unlocking with Face ID, and the watch gives a little helping hand.
My experience has been excellent. I don't leave the house very often. So it's very rare that I get to really test it. But every time I'm out and about and I pull my phone out of my pocket, I've gotten so conditioned over the last year to expect to enter my passcode. When my phone just unlocks for me, it feels like a magical experience. And I have not experienced any issues with it failing, about proximity issues or still prompting a passcode. Every time I've tried to unlock my phone with a mask on, it's just worked now. And it's made being out and about so much easier.
My experience was a little bit more mixed, but in the end it was a good experience. So when I first updated, I was, just sitting at my desk, and I put a mask on and I tried to unlock my phone a bunch of times, and it was like 1 in every 10 times it would actually work. So I just, kind of forgot about it and thought maybe wait until the next beta. But then either that day or the next day, I was actually doing some shopping. And then it was like a little bit more reliable than that. It was, at least 50%. And then a few days later, I was like out in a park, and then it was like pretty much almost 100% of the time it was unlocking. And yet around the house, it's still pretty bad. So my theory was that there's just a lot of wireless interference around the house. When I'm sitting at my desk, obviously, the Wi-Fi is pumping out interference and Bluetooth and the phone and the AirPods, and there's all sorts going on. So if there's any scenario where like a technology that relied on Bluetooth latency to function effectively was going to fail, I think sitting in front of a computer or running on Wi-Fi was probably it while using AirPods. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I would say it's actually very good. The downsides, or the things that weren't implemented, probably won't be implemented, is using Apple Pay. It doesn't work. You still have to type in your passcode. There's one other scenario where it didn't work. I can't remember. It's probably App Store or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Apple Pay is a big one because whenever you're using Apple Pay, you've got a mask on, basically.
Right.
Because you're somewhere. Somewhere near the house. I don't know who's got a little FPOS terminal in the house.
But you can just use Apple Pay on your watch.
Good point. I never do that. Never, ever.
Oh, really?
Wonder why.
I always use it on my watch. It's great.
Probably because I feel like a big nerd paying for something with my watch.
I've been surprised, especially in the US, where tap to pay is so rare still, how accustomed all the cashiers came. Like, I think within the first, few months of having an Apple Watch and using Apple Pay, everyone was like, whoa, you can use your watch to pay for something? But after that, I have not got a single comment on it. Like, everyone's just used to the idea of paying with your watch now.
Yeah, I don't really get looks either. The few times when I do remember to do it. But in the early days, it was like, whoa, what are you doing, man? Are you from the future? But I don't have to wear a mask anymore, so it doesn't really matter for me anymore.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because we had that one case of the coronavirus. We had a hard lockdown for a week, and then we had one additional week of masks, and there were no further cases. So
that is awesome.
We're in the clear. Yeah. Yep.
I think my first real experience going out in kind of a public way with a mask. My son. Well, I've gone grocery shopping.
Sounds like a sexuality related thing. Sorry.
I've avoided going out to any like public events or venues or things like that,
right,
as much as I can. My son's birthday was last weekend, and he's been really into Legos, and so we took him to Legoland for his birthday, but only because, looking into it online, Legoland has been able to handle like minimizing contact and stuff really well. I think you've got to reserve a time, and they keep a very limited number of people in the facility within like every few hour windows. So there was only a very few number of people there, so we were able to stay away from each other. And whereas in the past we've gone to Legoland, they've got just Legos everywhere, building sets and race car tracks and castles and fake kitchens and things like that where you can build whatever you want. That was all gone. There was no Legos anywhere, except when you walk in, every kid was given a big tub of sterilized Legos, and they brought that around with them to all the stations, and that was their Legos for the day that they could use and no one else touched. Awesome. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good experience. And
so he also got a Minions face mask.
Oh, yeah, that's just his mask.
Okay.
So that's
not provided by Lego Corp.
Right. Yeah, you gotta with kids, you gotta figure out the best way to get them to keep their masks on, and the more fun a mask is, the more likely they are to keep it. So yeah, they all get to pick out some fun masks like the start of the school year. So But yeah, I was impressed. As hesitant as I was to go out and do something like that, it seemed like it was handled really well, and I'm a little more optimistic for the way things are handled around here, at least.
Yeah, that's great. On the photo montage you put on Instagram, he is wearing the mask 50% of the time.
I think the other couple of the photos were taken at my house.
Oh, okay.
They weren't all at Legoland.
All right.
So I caved this week.
You bought 15 HomePods.
Just one, but I couldn't wait for a sale anymore. So I bit the bullet and I spent the full $300 on another HomePod.
On the original HomePod, full size, full price HomePod.
Yep. So what I decided...
What about that one in the hallway you keep tripping over?
Yeah, but then what would I have to listen to my podcast when I'm walking from the bathroom to the bedroom? Like, I got to keep continuous audio everywhere.
Good point. Yeah, the hallway is not going to fill itself with audio, is it?
So I thought I was being smart about this because I really wanted to try out a stereo pair paired with my Apple TV for like my home entertainment setup. And so I already had one HomePod in the living room, and I took the one out of my bedroom and plugged it in the bedroom and to the living room as well, so I could pair them and try out how it worked to connect to the Apple TV. I'd never actually tried that yet, and it was incredible. I'm not a big audio guy. I've been perfectly content using the built-in speakers on my flat screen TVs for as long as I've owned televisions. So to have dedicated audio at all is a big improvement. But I think the HomePods did an excellent job filling the room, a really, really good stereo separation going on. Like, it felt like there was sound coming from like either side of my head as I was listening, and surprisingly thumpy bass, which is not good because my living room I live in a duplex, and so my living room wall is the shared wall between me and my neighbor. So the worst place to have loud thumpy audio is right there. But like, it shook my living room, which I was surprised by just for having a couple of HomePods. But anyway, so I was so in love with that I decided that I couldn't wait, because I do use the HomePod in my bedroom a lot, so I couldn't go without that. So I bit the bullet and I bought another one, and it's been awesome.
So a HomePod Mini couldn't fill that spot in your bedroom?
I thought about it. I even thought I could get 2 HomePod Minis and have a stereo HomePod Minis in my bedroom and still be cheaper than one HomePod.
Right.
But I don't know. I was worried about... I don't know why I was worried about audio quality. A HomePod Mini would have been fine. But my have to have the best mentality took over, and if I'm not sticking it in the bathroom, then it's got to be the best. I can deal with having lesser than audio if I'm taking a shower, but I don't know. That, and the problem with having a stereo pair in my bedroom, I've only got 2 places that I could really set a HomePod. One would be...
Wait, you've already got one in your bedroom?
Well, I've got one HomePod in my bedroom. But I was saying, if I were to get 2 minis instead of the one full-size one, which I thought about and probably would have been okay with, but I've got my dresser at the foot of my bed, and the only other surface I could set a HomePod on is my nightstand next to my bed, which there would be no definitive left and right in that case. It would just be right next to my head and at my feet, and they're both kind of in the center of the room, so there's no right and left, and I thought that might end up sounding weird to have my right channel behind me and my left channel in front of me.
Yeah, it'd only be for loudness, really, at that point.
Right. So I thought a HomePod would serve that purpose better. It's louder than 2 HomePod Minis, I'm sure, and it still probably sounds better.
I'd say so, yeah, probably. Yeah, good call. I'm frankly shocked that you haven't tried a stereo pair with your TV before. How long has HomePod been out? Like 3 years?
Well, it's only... That's true that you could connect a stereo pair to your TV as like a Bluetooth audio device. It was only as of the latest version of tvOS that you can pair it natively, and like all sound effects will come through your HomePods. So it was actually kind of finicky in the past to use HomePods with your TV, and now
surely not using Bluetooth though. It's probably using
Wi-Fi
or
or AirPlay or whatever. but it's only as of this latest version that's got like system level integration. So I just never felt like dealing with it before, and now it seemed like it was a complete solution that I wouldn't have to worry about it connecting and disconnecting, or maybe like I open Disney Plus and it doesn't work as well for some reason, and yeah, so I felt strongly motivated as of the latest update to actually try it.
Yeah, okay. So you go into settings on the Apple TV and like audio, sound, and then you just set the HomePods as the output device. Is that it?
It's not even that hard.
And
You
Oh.
So I had a HomePod in my living room already. I brought the other HomePod from my bedroom and plugged it in, and immediately a notification showed up on my phone saying, "Do you want to make a stereo pair?" And so I hit yes. And then immediately after that, it said, "Do you want to use this stereo pair as the audio output for your Apple TV?" And I hit yes, and then it just worked.
And that was all on the phone, not even on the Apple TV.
Right. Yeah, it just saw they were all in the same room, and so it asked me if I wanted to set it up that way.
I almost want a TV just so I can try it.
You don't have a TV at all, or you don't have an Apple TV?
I don't have any TV.
Mm.
No TV, no Apple TV.
Okay.
100% of video content is consumed on iOS devices, or Mac OS, sorry. Or iPad OS. you really have to list them all. There's no TV OS device associated with the consumption of video content in this house. How about that?
Do your kids watch anything?
Yeah, Johannes watches a little bit on the iPad.
Ah, okay. Just give them an iPad to watch.
Yeah.
Man, hopefully it's a cheap iPad. My kids destroyed their iPads when they were that age.
I'm frankly shocked that he hasn't smashed it, considering the number of phones that I've lost through his hands.
Right?
But I think he really takes care of it because he doesn't want to miss out on on watching his show at lunchtime.
Right. There's no TV to fall back to, so he knows that's his only option.
That's it. Yeah. But it is also a cheap one. It's like the No Monica iPad from 2017.
Okay.
So
I've got an iPad mini.
it's like $300 to start with. Yeah.
It was bought in 2015. That is on like its fourth screen now because of how many times, and that's with putting a case on it and everything. It gets shattered over time.
Oh, I don't even have a case on this iPad, and it still has survived.
Wow. Okay. Well, you have raised much gentler children than I have, apparently.
Yeah. You should really stop them watching UFC every Sunday. That's your problem.
Oh man. But I don't know how else I'd keep them occupied. It's not like I want to spend a day playing with them or something.
Ugh, imagine that. Good morning. Have you updated to 14.5 beta 2 yet?
I saw it came out. I didn't deliberately update to it, but maybe my phone did overnight. Let me check.
I'm not sure there's been an overnight since it came out. Possibly.
I woke up this
what are we
morning
seeing?
to the article. No, it still hasn't been.
To the news.
Yeah, it still hasn't been downloaded, so I need to update.
I find it normally takes a couple of days after an update's released before the phone's like, all right, I'm going to do an automatic update. Like, it never gets there before I do.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I wonder if that's deliberate to try to like minimize load on their network all at once.
I think so, yeah. And in a case of like a major bug that starts to hit people.
Oh yeah, that's actually probably the smart thing to do.
Well, the biggest new thing I have updated, sorry, to answer your question. Yeah, just before we started recording, I finished the update. I don't really know why I rushed to do it before the show, though, because I'm just going to read, like, from the release notes instead of look through the phone for something that's new. There's no real reason for me to update except that the update was there. Maybe I'll find something as we go through the notes because new emoji have arrived.
That's always big news.
And I like to call it the Jesus emoji have arrived because now you can have a long-haired person with a beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jesus emoji.
This is 100% expected, but of course they replaced the headphone emoji with AirPods Max.
Mm-hmm.
So one more thing in your lineup that's just an Apple product.
Their goal is to replace every product emoji with something that they produce.
Mm-hmm.
The syringe emoji is no longer a what do you call it? A
Blood draw.
A blood draw. It's now a clear fluid, so it's more likely to be an injection of something or a vaccine.
Yeah, that makes sense. They always try to make their emoji as harmless as possible with water guns and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how these are implemented. I haven't seen anything spelling it out yet. But Apple does do some extra stuff above and beyond standard emojis to make some of these things work, right? So to have something else that's new in this is you can have your couple emojis, but each individual having different skin tones. And some of those things are just native to Apple. So if you send them to someone else, it's not going to come across quite the same as you would expect it to.
Are you serious?
Well, some of these for sure, yeah. I don't know exactly how these specifically are implemented. If it's part of the Unicode consortium, this is how emojis work, and it's been implemented, on iPhone and Windows and Android and everywhere else that you can view them, then it'll come across correctly. But if it is something that Apple's just adding above and beyond, then it won't. Just like how the Apple logo, it's not really an emoji, but the icon looks right on Apple devices, but then you just get a box on like a Chrome browser or something.
Surely these are all part of the emoji spec, though. And if you get something different, it's just because the phones aren't at the latest spec. That's got to be it.
Yeah, that very well could be the case.
I couldn't believe that Apple was like doing stuff outside the spec. Like, what's the point of the spec if they're just doing anything?
Well, I think that's a minimum that everyone needs to support, but I can see people going above and beyond, especially Apple, who has in the past added things that only appear correct on their devices. But yeah, I don't know how this works, if this is from the spec or not.
I'm just having a quick scroll through unicode.org. I'm going to see if I can find a couple and what the skin tone options are. Okay, it's not immediately obvious. At least there are no skin tones besides yellow on unicode.org. So it's going to be hard to... Yeah, okay.
I think I got it here. I'm looking at the latest emoji recently added. This is from the Unicode Consortium, version 13.1. It's got face in the clouds, face with spiral eyes, heart on fire, those things. And it also has the append for beard on person. So it's a part of the official spec that you can add a beard to a person.
Okay, so that's legit emoji.
Right. So it's just a matter of all the operating systems catching up for that to look correct.
Here's something. Emoji with skin tones are not listed here. See full skin tone emoji list.
Okay. Yeah, their skin tones aren't listed in this update. The same way that all the other emojis that came in 14.5 are.
All right. It looks like all the mixtures of skin tones are official emoji spec as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, I really think that if you're seeing boxes or like skin tones that don't match what you sent on another device, it's probably just because they're not on the latest spec.
Yeah, I think you're probably right at this point.
Yeah. I hope so.
It's funny at this point how long ago Unicode Consortium was around specifically to like, oh man, this language has a word for this, and how are we going to fit that into Unicode and make it look right? And now it seems like a big part of all their meetings updates is like, what new emoji are we going to add? Since that's taken off in the last 10 years.
It sure has made headlines over any other updates that they've done.
Yeah, I'm sure they've put a lot of legitimate work into making sure all these languages are covered by Unicode as well. But I think thanks to Apple in part, or even maybe mostly with their emoji keyboard they added with the iPhones, that's what really brought emoji into popularity all that time ago.
Yeah, remember back when you actually had to add the emoji keyboard as another keyboard? And we were really living in the sticks back then, weren't we?
Back when emoticons were still the best way to communicate.
Emoticons. Oh, yeah. So iPhone 12 mini users can rejoice, or at least some of them, because the green screen tint issue has been fixed. So a lot of iPhone 12 mini users had a very green screen when they were like in a very dark room and their phone was on low brightness. They wouldn't get like proper dark OLED screen. It would look green.
Were you seeing that?
It seems I never got it. No.
I
tested it quite thoroughly as well just to check, but my blacks are black. Certainly no green in them.
Okay.
Cool to see that it wasn't I guess it could have been a hardware issue, but it was totally fixable in software because there's a little Reddit thread on it, and yeah, people using that 14.5 beta 2 aren't seeing the tint anymore.
Man, that's awesome. It does sound like a screen issue that wouldn't be able to be fixed with software, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
A mention of a new battery pack.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, this only makes sense.
So the text... Sorry?
I said this makes complete sense. I've been waiting for an accessory like this since they announced MagSafe.
Yeah, you've talked about it before.
Mm-hmm.
But the hint is in a little bit of text that someone found, which says, to improve charging efficiency and maximize available battery life, the battery pack will keep your phone charged at around 90%.
Right, which is standard text they've used in the past with their smart cases, but the wording is slightly different to say battery pack instead of smart battery case.
Huh, okay. So the old battery cases, would only charge to 90% as well?
I think that was like as of maybe iOS 13 or something, where they started to really focus on maintaining battery health. The same time your phone wouldn't charge all the way up until you're just about to wake up. Started doing stuff like that.
I haven't had a battery case since iPhone 6S, maybe, I think.
Right.
It's been that long.
I hate cases, so I will live with a dead battery before I put a case on my phone.
Just wait until you need to start your car with your phone and enter your house with your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Then you're going to have a battery case on there.
That's true. Yeah, if it becomes your primary way of doing everything, you're going to have like 100 different fallbacks so you don't get locked out of your house with a dead battery.
Yeah, just in case. Yeah, I'm pretty keen to see how they implement it. I imagine it'll be pretty basic, just a case, a battery built in. Hopefully they give it that little bump so you can like hold your phone with your pinky finger or your ring finger. Remember that?
Yeah.
The camel. Yep.
I mean...
And of course it'll charge with MagSafe.
I'm expecting something less than that. I'm thinking something like that looks like the MagSafe wallet, but it's just a battery instead. So it snaps on the back and that's it.
No, it couldn't possibly be that. It doesn't attach securely enough. I mean, imagine the weight of a battery. It's even more likely to come off somehow. Like you take a hard step and you're just holding the sides of the phone and the weight of it just pulls the battery pack off the back of the phone. It wouldn't happen with the Folio, the wallet, because it's fairly lightweight. But the inertia of a battery is a little bit more, a fair bit more.
True. They could always put stronger batteries or stronger magnets in the battery accessory. And
yeah,
the way I would picture using something like this is that it would just be in my pocket. And when I put my phone in, I snap the battery on, but then I would take the phone out. If I'm going to hold the phone, I don't want the battery in my hand. But
you're so anti-case. You'd go through this fumble in your pocket. People are going to think something's up with you as you're messing around in your pocket with your battery phone situation. Why is he always at the playground?
Jeez. My 12 Pro Max is already so big. I cannot imagine having to deal with it even a millimeter thicker with a case on it. And I'm pretty sure that come this fall, I'm going to go back to a smaller size again. Mm-hmm. Unless they give me a strong reason to keep the Max because of some exclusive feature again.
It wouldn't be unusual for the Max camera specs to come down to like the regular Pro size.
Right. Yeah, we've already seen some rumors about that, like in the last month. So I'm hoping that's true, and we get sensor shift stabilization or in-body stabilization coming to all the phones this year.
I'm picturing the battery pack will at least have like sides, like it'll wrap around the sides of the phone.
I think that would make more sense, and I'd probably be safer and more secure. But at that
Maybe
point,
it doesn't need like top and bottom though.
maybe I say at that point, where's the line between smart battery case and smart battery pack or whatever? You know, I feel like a pack is more of a discrete, separate thing, and the case would wrap around the phone.
I reckon the distinction between case and pack is simply that the MagSafe is doing the charging rather than using the lightning port. I think that's going to be the only real distinction. And apart from that, it'll be largely the same.
Okay. Yeah. And that's pretty nice that you can charge your phone on the go. I was going to say you can still have your port free, but I think the smart cases had a pass-through port, didn't they?
They did, yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least a little thinner then.
Yeah, so that's a question then. How are you going to charge the battery pack?
I assume wirelessly. It probably has a MagSafe as well.
So the pack itself won't have a lightning port of any description. It'll be a purely wireless charging device.
I think we're a year or two away from iPhones being completely portless, so it makes sense they're going to try to really push wireless everything leading up to that.
This is the first step then.
Yeah.
Well, it's a nice way to ease into it, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
Another little update in 14.5 beta 2 is that on the iPads, when the Smart Folio is shut, the built-in microphone is muted. I thought it already did that, so I was a little surprised to see that in the notes.
Yeah, I thought we had heard something about this in the past, and I don't know what I'm thinking of that I'm confusing for this, but maybe it was something they announced and they're just now getting around to implementing it. Or
yeah,
maybe the phones did something similar with the Smart Folio or whatever they called that. But yeah, I was also under that impression.
And just quickly to run through the last ones, there's a new shortcut action for getting the latest screenshots and taking screenshots.
Mm-hmm.
Apple Music's got some new slide controls to manage your up next stuff. Oh, and actually this is probably the only interesting thing that's left in these notes is in the Find My app, there's some new wording that says, these are items that aren't yours but have been seen with you for a continuous amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So you find someone's phone and you put it in your pocket and you carry it around for a few days because either you've actually stolen it or you just haven't found the owner. And then suddenly it starts to appear in your Find My app maybe. Or maybe it's just related to the AirTags.
I think, yeah.
Like you found someone's keys.
Well, I think you're talking about a side effect, maybe a secondary benefit of this, to discourage theft, because like, hey, we know you have this. I think the primary reason this is here is to combat a concern people will have when AirTags come out is, well, what if someone wants to track me and they just drop one of their AirTags in my bag or something? Well, you'll get a notification if someone's AirTag is following you around.
Ah.
I think that's the motivating factor for that, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably much more likely.
So not that anyone's ever said that before, or at least not loudly before about Tile or Samsung or any other tracker tags. But as soon as Apple does something, people are going to complain about it. So,
So I'm not going to be able to track Yasmin's movements now. Is that what you're saying?
Not without her knowing.
Pop up and Find My. Yeah.
You got to just add her to your family. Then you don't need a tag. You can just track her phone.
Oh, don't worry. We are in a family already.
That's such a nice feature to have. I don't know. Like in past relationships where like I've been in a family with my significant other and we've shared our location with each other. When I talk about it with people, they're like, "Oh, that's so creepy. Why do you guys don't trust each other to like just be out without having to keep a constant eye on each other?" It's like, that's not really what it is. Sometimes it's just really nice. Like, we're in the mall. Where did they go? Oh, look, they're just down at the other store. Okay, I'll walk down there. Or set up like a like if I was supposed to do something around the house, like clean or something while they're out, it's like I'll set an alert like they're leaving the store. You better have done the laundry or something. So,
to tell the truth, I stopped using location alerts for other people when it started to alert the other people that you'd set them, because I just find that weird, which I know is ironic because it's weird that I don't do it now that they know I'm doing it. But, yeah, now that it tells Yasmin that I've set up an alert for when she's leaving somewhere,
Mhm.
nah. Now she's going to be questioning why I set an alert for it.
That's James' notice to kick his girlfriend out of the house. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not just my immediate family which is only Yasmin at the moment, but my ex immediate family. All my siblings are on my Find My as well, and my parents and closest friends. And
Nice.
I'm actually surprised I don't have you on Find My. What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm fine with adding you if you want to see exactly how sedentary my lifestyle is. Like, that's the least concerning thing in the world for me, for someone on the other side of the world to know what my current location is.
Done. You can now see exactly where I am.
Oh, nice. All right, I'll share it. Share indefinitely. All right. Oh man, I haven't opened the Find My app in so long. It's just a pile of devices. Mostly because like all the phones on my wall, anything that I can update to the latest OS is. So I have like 5 iPhones in my Find My list, and a couple pairs of AirPods, and 3 or 4 Macs, and for some reason, well, there's iPads and Apple Watches, and then my kids' devices, and yeah, it's just like a pile of devices all on top of each other.
For some reason, Yasmin's AirPods, Yasmin is spelled with a Z. All her other devices with an S. That's odd. Anyway.
Who named that?
We should probably move on to other topics since we've already been going for quite a long time.
Okay.
So, there have been rumors or rumblings for a couple of months now that the iPhone 12 mini is not doing well and that it's on its deathbed. Production cuts, downscaling production, same thing as production cuts, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably won't be produced this year for the 12S mini, whatever it's going to be called, 12 mini S.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the anti-rumor, well, not the anti-rumor, but anti-rumor that Apple is planning to launch the iPhone 13 mini. They called it despite poor sales. So my thoughts on this are, actually, I was listening to the talk show with John Gruber,
Mm-hmm.
and he said something interesting. He's actually talked to people inside Apple about like production rumors that get leaked, in quotes. And nearly all the time, the Apple people are saying, like, where are these people getting this information? Because it's completely inaccurate, or it's false, it's made up, or they've got no idea. I mean, it's a little bit of they say this and they say that, but I tend to believe sources of John Gruber just because, you know, he's really up there in terms of Apple News, reliable Apple News person.
Mm-hmm.
Other people don't quite have the same opinion of him, but I like him.
Yeah, I love John Gruber. Who doesn't like John Gruber?
A lot of people don't like him. He's fairly opinionated, so
Sure.
that tends to polarize people.
Okay.
And then the other part of it, saying that Apple does plan an iPhone 13 mini,
Mm-hmm.
came from John Prosser with no sources named. So,
Sure.
So I think we can take both rumors with quite a lot of salt.
I mean, there's always people, naysayers, I guess, talking about iPhones. I remember something about the iPhone 10, in 2017. After a few months, they said it's not selling well, and Apple's going to stop production on it, and so we hear things like this from time to time. And even with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if iPhone 12 mini is selling the worst of all the devices. I think the number one thing the 12 mini had going for it was that it was the cheapest one, and that was kind of undercut by the fact they released the SE a few months prior that year. So anyone who was waiting on a cheap iPhone bought the SE, and then when the 12 mini came out, a lot of that market had already been kind of cannibalized by that other device.
Exactly.
I think the people who want the small iPhone just for the fact that the small iPhone is a lot smaller than people that are just going to go for the cheapest one. So
Yeah, it's probably a fraction.
hopefully they do keep this going, and we'll see a 12S Mini this year, and then maybe there'll be a lot more people willing to upgrade at that point, and they'll get a lot more of those cheap iPhone buys as well.
Yeah, I cross my fingers too. It's certainly got its niche, and a lot of people like the size and the form factor. You know, they still want a top tier phone, but in the small package, counting me amongst those people, and to show like a commitment to it for more than one cycle
Yeah,
is probably like necessary to actually get like a fan base, a bigger fan base behind it, and then to sell more of them.
Mm-hmm. If they could just, this is probably outside the realm of possibility, but if they could do like 12S Pro Mini or whatever, that's what I really want. Because I am all for the small phone form factor, and I would be all on it if I didn't feel like I was missing out on features for buying it. So
Okay.
if that ever happens, that will be the phone I get for sure.
I think it confuses the lineup a little bit though. Right now it's a pretty clean like mini, standard pro, big pro.
Oh.
But then to also have like this little mini pro in there.
I agree. I'm sick of the pro stuff though. I think it should be mini, normal, and big, and they are all the same, and there's no pro or regular.
I don't think Apple's ever going to do that because they make too much money selling a cheap one and an expensive one.
I know. They sell the exact same phone with an aluminum case and a stainless steel case, and they can sell it twice basically, and yeah, they're never going to stop.
Also in 14.5 beta, you can select your default music streaming service. So prior to this beta, you could play music in other apps using Siri if you said like, yo Siri, play blah blah in Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
That would work, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But now, once you've actually set the default, you don't have to specify, like, I want to play it in X. You just ask for what you want it to play, and it will go to, say, Spotify.
Yeah,
and play that song.
I'm sure that's great for anyone who uses Spotify or whatever else. It seems like a minor change, but yeah, good for them to do it. And I hope that this is a sign that coming up in like iOS 15 and onward, we see a lot more ability to choose default apps in the same way you can do email and browser now. They can add music and calendar and reminders or whatever else in the future. I think that'll be great, and I think that's kind of the road they're going down, whether that's out of the kindness of their hearts or because they're trying to avoid all the antitrust stuff going on right now. I think it's a win-win either way.
When it comes to the music, I think it's very much in the realm. It's probably 90% antitrust and 10% user experience.
Right.
Like when Mr. EU comes knocking and says, like, you offer a music service on your phone from you on your operating system, and Apple's like, yeah, but if you say in Spotify at the end of your Siri command, it goes to Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. E is like, no. Now what you have to do is when the person gets the phone for the first time and then presses music, you give them like a dialog box choosing which service they want to install. and Apple is doing everything they can for that never ever to happen.
Right, yeah.
So if they can show Mr. EU that actually if you go into settings, actually I have no idea where the setting is, say settings, music, defaults or whatever, you can actually choose the music here. And then Mr. E's like, okay, that's probably fine then. Don't worry about that little dialog box.
Well, uniquely in this case, that setting is nowhere. That prompt will only come up via Siri if you ask. You can't get it to it in settings.
Oh, really? Okay. Puts a little hole in my theory then.
Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to look at the example here in the article. It says if you tell it to play music, it'll say the first time, it'll say, which app would you like to use? And then it lists all your music apps. So then you pick that, and then that'll be your default from then on.
Yeah, I guess how else would it function though? Like you got your phone and you went into like, say it was in settings, defaults, music, and you change it to Spotify. Does suddenly the music icon change to a Spotify icon in your dock? No, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, how does it work
maybe
choosing a default browser right now?
Well, surely it doesn't change wherever your Safari icon is into a Chrome icon. It's just a matter of when you click on a link, it opens in Chrome, and the app icons stay where they are. So, like, where else would you put it for music?
I don't know.
Siri.
I'm looking for it now. I don't even know where you go to change your browser. Like, it's not under Safari. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure there's a group of people who this appeals to, and the general idea of being able to pick your own default app appeals to them. I am a big fan of the complete integration and having the same app on all my devices, so I use the default Apple app in every case.
14.5 also adds Apple Maps feature for crowdsourcing. Waiting for the article to open. Accidents, speed traps, and hazards.
This is kind of cool.
I remember back in like 2009, maybe, there was an app called Trapster.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the first app that did this, at least in my area. You just leave your phone running on your dash, and I mean, this one was obviously targeted at speed cameras because it was called Trapster, but it also logged accidents and hazards. But that was pretty revolutionary. But it did mean you always had to leave the app running on your phone, and I don't think you could even use navigation when it was running.
Okay.
So it was pretty primitive and limiting.
Mm-hmm.
And now, 12 years later, we're getting a similar thing in Apple Maps. But as a lot of people in the comments on that Reddit article note, Waze has been Waze has had this sort of feature for quite a long time. I've never been a Waze user, so don't really know how well it works, but
I haven't used it either, but it's very popular, at least in the US. A lot of people do use it just because it has those features. And it's owned by Google, so it's got, all the Google infrastructure backing it. But I feel like Google has just been so hesitant to add, speed trap alerts into Google Maps. They've kept Waze around just to have a separate app that does that. And maybe now that Apple's building it into their maps, it'll be the push Google needs to build it into Google Maps as well.
The bigger the user base reporting these things, the more accurate it is and the more up to date it is. So yeah, chuck it in Apple Maps. I can't wait. Hoping it's not just a US thing, as lots of Maps features tend to be.
It seems like there should be no reason it is. They just need to have some database with a GPS coordinate and like a flag for whether it's an accident or hazard or speed check, and that should be able to work anywhere. But who knows what they artificially limit.
It could be like a regulatory thing or a law thing. It might even be like state by state.
That's true.
They have to figure out, like, is it allowed to alert based on speed traps?
So it looks like, from what I can tell, currently it only works while you have directions pulled up. So if you're getting directions somewhere, you can see those alerts and add an alert.
Okay.
It seems like that would be the kind of thing that I would like to just have going all the time. Like, I always want an alert if there's a cop waiting up ahead, and at the same time, if I was just driving down the road and I pass a cop, it'd be real easy just to tap that button if it's always up. But I rarely have directions going in my car, so I wouldn't be able to use that feature. And it seems like most people wouldn't. I think most driving people do is not assisted. So they're missing out on a lot of data points by not opening it to everyone, and maybe that'll change between now and the release. But that's what I'm hoping for.
Maybe the issue is like you're driving down the street and there's like a cop 2 blocks ahead, but you're taking a left turn before then, and they don't want to alert you erroneously. I do remember back in the Trapster days, so going a long way back, you'd get alerts for like all sorts of stuff that wasn't on your route.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So maybe it's trying to just give you more accurate results by using the route it knows you're taking. I guess at the same time, I don't even follow the route it's giving me all the time. So, yeah,
I don't know.
who knows?
I'm anxious to see, but I'm
I
excited.
certainly agree with you. Yeah, yeah, me too. We already have hazards though here at least, like because it hooks into whatever official, accidents. Accidents and hazards already show up in my map. Like if there's road work or traffic accident, there's like a central source of data and it's pumped into Apple Maps somehow.
Mm-hmm. And you've got their traffic speed, like the red or yellow streets based on just positions and general speed of other iPhones traveling in the area. So
yeah, exactly.
This isn't adding. Like the only thing this is adding is the ability to tell someone if there's a cop up ahead, which is still a great thing to have.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Although, how often do you get tickets? I logged into my my driver services whatever account the other day, and I get a ticket roughly every 2 years, and I'm very consistent. I always am going between 10 and 19 kilometers per hour over the limit every time I get a ticket.
Okay,
but it's fairly rare.
Early on in my driving, like high school and college, most of college at least, I was probably getting a ticket once a year. But I haven't gotten a ticket in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. It probably wouldn't help me that much. Although, as a matter of fact, it might have the opposite effect where I feel safer to speed in a lot of situations because I'll be warned if there's a cop.
Yeah.
So, although I used to only drive, Camaros and stuff, and now I'm driving around in a family car, so it's not as fun to go fast as it used to be.
Yeah. I used to drive around in a WRX, and you didn't even have to get speed. You didn't even have to speed to get pulled over by a cop.
Oh yeah,
when you're driving around in a Rex. What's next on the list? An iPhone, this year iPhone or a iPhone 13 rumors to feature a refined matte back, not matte black, but matte back, and always on display, reduced notch, Touch ID, and 120 hertz refresh rate. Do you want to go through them one by one?
Sure.
Refined matte back. That's pretty vague. Let me have a look at my currently black iPhone. Taking the case off it.
So you've just got...
It's a very shiny. It's a very shiny back.
Yeah, only the Pro phones have the matte back.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look at the little bit around your camera, I guess, to get a feel for what the back of my whole phone looks like.
Okay. It looks pretty good.
Yeah. So the only thing it's said here is that it's going to be more grippy, which I think is good because this matte is very, very smooth. You don't get any of the grippiness of regular glass. So I guess that's a benefit. But I've never dropped my phone because it's too slippery. Like I'm always surprised when I see people complaining about how slippery phones are online because I've never dropped a phone. But I'm sure that'll be beneficial to some people.
I think it's a surety thing rather than actually dropping your phone. It's just nice to hold your phone and feel like you have a good grip on it. Yeah, I'd be surprised if anyone actually dropped their phone because it was slippery. But just like when I put a case on my phone, I just feel more confident.
Right.
It's like an ad for a case. I just feel more confident. Then I flick my hair back and walk into the sunset.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of this textured glass they've been doing the last couple of years. So if nothing else, I'm happy to see that they're still wanting to continue down this route of textured matte glass, and they're not thinking about switching it out to something else.
Yep. And always on display. Now this is something that phones have had for a long, long time.
Some phones, yeah.
Some phones, not iPhones.
Right.
But I think an always on display is going to be amazing.
Oh,
just like on the watch when you have an always on display. I'm sure it's amazing. I look forward to the day when I do have that.
Yeah, I think this goes hand in hand with the high refresh rate display. Is it's just all because of LTPO. They'll be able to ramp up and down the refresh rate so much that they can leave the display on all the time. That's probably the number one feature that I have missed moving from Android to iPhone. Was I really liked having a notification LED to get the little flash of different colors depending on what's going on, so I always can tell. And this isn't exactly that, but it's similar, where you could just get a little notification pop up without even check your phone. Or it could be as simple as an LED if they just like made one corner of your display light up a different color for different apps. But I don't imagine that's what that means. This also opens it up, I think, for Apple Watch style complications you could put on your lock screen, where you always have like a little weather complication or something like that. I think that could be really useful as well.
I think that would be useful, but I'd be very surprised if they did anything besides show the date and time, show the battery, and then show notifications when they're coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be really surprised if they made it any more complicated, pardon the pun, than that. They kind of do, like they kind of hinted at an always on display with the current Yo Siri indicator when your screen is off. Like it only lights up the Siri bubble thing, the Siri icon.
Right.
And that looks really cool. So I'm looking forward to more things in that same sort of realm. I do expect that an iPhone without an always on display is going to feel like an old iPhone really quickly, though.
Right.
Kind of like when we went from being able to just tap the screen to turn the phone on.
Oh, yeah.
You remember when that came in? And then, like, if you went back to an old phone and you touched the screen and didn't turn on, God, that feels...
Yes.
It's so minor, but it really made the old phone feel out of date.
Yep.
And likewise, just how it uses the accelerometer to guess when you're bringing the phone up to look at it, and it just turns the screen on then as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you pick up an old iPhone and do it, and the screen doesn't come on, it just feels broken.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm totally expecting that this always on display is going to be like a bigger thing than the words on the screen suggest it will be.
I'm excited for what this means, especially with, like, I put this MagSafe stand at my desk while I'm working, and it's a nice place to step my phone when I'm working, but my phone's just a blank screen. If it's always on and showing my notifications, that's gonna change how I interact with my phone in a big way, I think.
And screens are cool, so why would you want it turned off?
Yeah, exactly.
So a reduced notch. I kind of expected it this generation, to be honest, but
yeah,
it's never really shrunk. So
this has been a rumor for every phone since the iPhone 10. I think we're overdue for the notch to get smaller. I've seen a couple people, John Prosser the most, talk about how it's going to be reduced. It seems, if John Prosser is to be believed, that it's not going to be reduced in the way a lot of people have been predicting, where it gets narrower. It's actually going to get shorter. So you're going to have the same width, but it's going to be like half the height, which I think is a better implementation than the narrower option. But either way, I think it's going to make very little difference. I don't notice my notch when I use it day to day, so it makes very little difference to me.
The only time I notice notch is watching the video, because I do like to make it fill the screen, and so you then have that little obvious notch on the left. But to keep the width for the Face ID sensors, and then just to shrink it like up towards the top of the phone, does make a hell of a lot of sense, doesn't it?
I think that's a lot better, because for situations like you're talking about watching video, I think it'll intrude a lot less in your video than a notch at the same height but just slightly narrower would.
And it looks like there's a lot to play with. Just looking at my notch now, there's a fair bit of space above it. Definitely above it, and then a little bit below it. So if you've got no width to play with, then yeah, jam it up the top.
And then they'll leave it like that for another 5 years.
Yeah, on this show about a year ago, I said if Apple aren't doing punch holes for their like things at the top this year, then they've fallen way behind. But surprisingly, few companies are doing the punch hole technique to get rid of the notch.
We are right on the bleeding edge of under display cameras now.
Yeah, we're on the bleeding edge, that's for sure, because the quality I've seen coming out of them is fairly low still. Not just the picture quality, but the screen covering it quality.
Right, yeah. That's the displays have to get better, and then you're going to need a company like Apple or Google to really perfect some software side correction to get rid of all the blur of looking through a screen. But I think the machine learning of either one of those two companies is going to be the only way to solve it.
Speaking of under-screen technologies, Touch ID is also rumored to come back, so you'd guess it would come under the screen and not to the lock button, but you never know.
Yeah, I think either are pretty likely. I think that now is as good of a time as any to reintroduce Touch ID. As a matter of fact, this is a great time because Apple doesn't have to backtrack on anything they said about Touch ID being less secure, and they can say, well, the world's in a situation where this is necessary, so we went ahead and added it back for you, and can kind of save face in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that this year.
Am I going crazy, or is there already an Apple device with a touchscreen in the lock button?
iPad Air.
Yeah. So they already do it. They already have a lock button with Touch ID.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
But they have put a lot of research into under-display Touch ID, so it seems like, this might be a sunk cost fallacy thing, but it seems like they've been working on this hard enough they should be able to do it. And it would be a lot cooler.
Yeah, maybe. If I had to choose, I'd stick it in the lock button, though. I think there are more situations where you are gripping or reaching for your phone and your finger's able to touch the button without unsighted, as opposed to looking for the spot on your screen to put your finger.
Well, that's true. It depends on how big that spot is. If they can cover a big area with some kind of sensor, you were just saying a few minutes ago how old and outdated phones felt that you had to press the button to turn it on. If you could just touch the screen and it unlocked, I think that would feel a lot better.
Yeah, maybe.
Especially if you didn't have a small target.
But if you had like your thumb and your index finger registered for Touch ID, it wouldn't even matter which way you gripped your phone or reached for it. It'd just always unlock when you had it ready.
Oh, I agree. It could work. It would take a little bit of getting used to for me, because I definitely don't hold my phone in any way that I'm touching a button, and I rarely touch buttons at all, actually, so I'd have to get used to doing that, but I think it'd be second nature at some point.
How do you lock it then?
Oh, well, I guess you got me. I do press the button to lock it. But that's not at all how I hold my phone normally. My fingers are not near it, just because my phone is so big.
We didn't really talk much about the increased refresh rate. Well, you did mention it. Have you got anything else to say about it?
No, not really. Like I said, I think it's going to come with the LTPO technology.
Yeah.
It's going to make a lot of nerds happy, and a lot of other people aren't going to notice.
We expected it last year, and I had to wait until this year. I did have like an extra article in here, just wondering what you thought about AirPods auto switching, because according to Reigning Champ, AirPods Pro auto switching is useless and actually ruins the wireless experience. I turned off auto switching because it ruined my wireless experience.
Really?
How about you?
I have it on.
Yeah.
And have been mostly happy with it. There's definitely been a couple times where I've experienced what's being described here, where the audio is hijacked by a device I didn't want it to, or not switching to a device I do want it to. But those have been pretty rare for me. Now, it seems like, according to this post and a lot of people in the comments, this seems to specifically be an issue relating to the Mac. And even more specifically, Intel Macs. So I don't really have a good way to test that. I don't use AirPods at all on my Mac, I use my wired headphones when we're doing the podcast, and other than that, I use my speakers. And also, I very rarely use my Mac, unfortunately, because I work off a Windows PC. So maybe if I was in a situation where I was switching devices more often, this would be a frustration for me. But as far as going back and forth between my iPad Pro and my iPhone, it's been completely seamless, and it's always worked the way I wanted it to, except for maybe one or two exceptions.
So say you're listening to something on your phone, and then you pick up your iPad just to check something, and the iPad steals the audio away. Is that not annoying?
I suppose that would be annoying if that ever happened to me. I don't listen to things on my phone. I guess this is probably also a big reason this hasn't bothered me. If I'm listening to something on my phone, it's coming through my HomePod. The only time I ever put my headphones in is to take a call.
Okay.
And that's a big part of that is just not being out of the house in the last year. Because I would have had my headphones in and listening to stuff on the go or whatever else. But because I've just been at home in my office, if I'm listening to something, I just tap my HomePod and it comes through that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so maybe it's your use case that doesn't lead to the frustration that a lot of people are having.
Right, which is, I guess my use case is very little, so.
Yeah.
But it wasn't working for you.
I mean, it works, it auto switches, but it just auto switches all the time when I don't want it to. If I'm playing something on my phone and I just pause it and then go and check something on the computer, I typically don't want the audio to switch to the computer. I just want it to stay where it was. I just it's just the certainty of knowing where the audio is going to go when you press play. Especially, say you've got like a sleeping kid on your arm or in the bed next to you or
sure,
something like that. You never want the audio just to blare out of the speakers.
So your typical use case is you're in bed, you've got a child laying on your arm, you've got your phone in your hand and your laptop next to you, and your AirPods are switching back and forth with your pile of devices in the bed with you.
That's right. All my babies. Paul, MacBook Pro, iPhone. All my loved ones.
Right.
AirPods. Can't forget those. The app. I mean, the iPhone and the Apple Watch kind of have had this automatic switching since they were launched, really. And I find that in itself is annoying enough. Because there are certainly situations when I'm trying to command something through my phone, through my AirPods, and for some reason my watch starts taking the command and doing something which it's not capable of doing, or trying to do something it's not capable of doing. And yeah, I can't remember the exact scenario where this happens, but yeah, even that, like limited auto switching between those two devices, I find can be annoying.
I don't keep anything on my Apple Watch. I don't have any music or podcasts or anything just stored on the watch itself. So I've never had a situation, as far as I'm aware, that my AirPods have been paired to the watch directly to play stuff. Maybe it's been doing it without me noticing this whole time, but that's never happened to me.
Yeah, maybe. I recently discovered in Overcast that you can actually sync podcasts to your watch. So last show I said I was leaning towards Apple Podcasts because I was using my watch more and it automatically synced episodes to the watch. Since then, I have found that in the latest version you can automatically sync podcasts to your watch. So fully back on board Overcast. And there is a situation where I'm using specifically the watch to send audio to my AirPods, and with no desire for the phone to connect to it. And yet if a call comes in, then you get this weird situation where the AirPods are like, oh, do I connect to the phone? Do I connect to the watch? Where do I answer the call? Where's the audio coming from?
Right.
And then your computer's ringing in the background and the kids are asleep and Yasmin's screaming. And
this is the worst thing. Because, as of, I don't know if it was this latest iOS 14 or iOS 13 out of this, where you can choose to ignore calls from unknown callers. I've had that turned on all the time, and I love getting all my calls sent
Oh,
straight
yeah.
to voicemail. However, it only happens on the phone. My Mac and my iPad
really?
will start ringing. My phone's not ringing because it sent it to voicemail, but my other two devices are ringing as if I'm still getting a call.
I haven't experienced that. No, my mute unknown callers is in effect for everything.
Really? And you have your other devices set up to forward your calls to them?
Yeah. Like my MacBook will ring if a call's coming in.
Interesting. Well, I don't know what I did, but yeah, my other devices will ring as if I still have a call coming. If I answer them, there won't be anything there because the call was already ended, but they will still ring.
Ah, right. I've experienced something similar where you can answer the call on your phone and the computer doesn't realize for like another 10 seconds that the call was answered. So
Yeah, that's happened as
maybe
well.
that's the issue.
Yeah, it's something along those lines.
Yeah. I'm James VDM on Reddit and Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter.
And the show notes are on reddit.com/r/the_apple show.
Hey, I was going to say, speaking of how unbearably cold it's been, I ordered a fancy blanket the other day.
I saw.
Yeah, I saw you liked my tweet in response. But yeah, Throwboy, which is a brand that I'm a pretty big fan of. I think I say this partially because they follow us on Twitter. Hi, Throwboy. Sponsor us and send us pillows. They make some really cool pillows, like modeled after iconic Apple products. Like they got the classic Mac and Apple II and the original iPhone. So they got some cool stuff. And they just launched some blankets. They got one that looks like the Finder icon and one that looks like a original Macintosh, which I ordered because I think that would be a cool throw blanket.
It looks very cool.
Yeah.
It looks a little on the small side, though. Are you sure it's going to be big enough?
I don't know exactly what the dimensions are going to be. I think it's going to be fine, especially because the main people that use these blankets that throw on the couch are the kids. So,
okay.
And it'll be worth it just as a decoration anyway.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they want as much as the blanket for shipping to me, so
Oh, man.
I'm not going to be making the purchase.
I don't know where they're based out of, but I guess far from you.
Far, far away.
Looks like it's 50 by 60 inches. So that's pretty big. It's like 4 feet by 5 feet.
And in modern units?
And modern units. 4 feet 2 meters, right? 1.2 meters by 1.5 meters. So it's not like a full-sized blanket, but
it's definitely a throw
yeah,
rug blanket. Not so much a comforter. That's what you call a doona, isn't it?
I love that. That was my nickname as a child. My dad
Doona.
My dad called me Dooner.
Yeah.